In this lesson, we're going to be talking about converting units of temperatures and pressure. So you're going to be exposed to different units of temperature and pressure, and you need to be able to convert them to the correct unit in order for you to be able to use math um, to do some conversions. Okay, so for this lesson, we're going to be talking about how do we convert from different units of temperature and pressure. But before that, let's go ahead and talk about vocabulary first. So volume, we will be defining volume as the measurement of how much space an object occupies. And we will be using the size of the box to denote volume. Okay. Temperature is defined as the measurement of the speed of our particles. They must be in kelvins though. And we are going to be drawing whooshies to denote the magnitude of temperature. And then we'll have the number of particles. The number of particles is a measurement of how much stuff an object contains. So these are the number of circles, and then these are drawn as particles or circles. And then lastly, we're going to have pressure, which pressure is defined as the amount of collisions of particles to the walls of their container, and we will be using arrows for those. So just to summarize, I have in here a generic particle diagram. The box is going to be the volume, right? So the box is going to be the volume. The pressure is going to be the arrows because we're pointing to the walls of the container. The N is the number of circles, and T is the whooshies. Okay. So we also need to discuss something called standard temperature and pressure. Similar to how we did with when we were talking about SI units before, standard temperature and pressure is also very important in order for scientists from different parts of the world to be able to report their findings. So the standard temperature is going to be 273.15 Kelvin, 0 degrees Celsius, and 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Standard pressure is a lot more, depending on the scientist who you're speaking with. Can be 1 atmosphere, 760 millimeter mercury, 14.7 psi, which is pounds per square inch, 101.3 kPa, which is kilopascals, and 760 torr. Just remember that all of these are equal to the same thing. They're just different units that mean the same thing. So let's first convert temperature. For example, water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. We found that out using the Icy Hot Lab, which turns out to be 212 Fahrenheit and 373 Kelvin. Water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius, 32 degrees Fahrenheit, and 273 Kelvin. And absolute zero is where 0 Kelvin is, negative 273.15 Celsius, and negative 459.67 Fahrenheit. Here are the formulas to convert different units of temperature. Kelvin is equal to degrees Celsius plus 273.15. And if you want to go from Celsius to Fahrenheit, you're going to do, you're going to plug in the Celsius times 1.8 plus 32 to get Fahrenheit. And then lastly, if you want to get from Fahrenheit to Celsius, you're going to do Fahrenheit minus 32 divided by 1.8. So let's do a sample problem in here. The boiling point of water is 100 degrees Celsius. What is the value of the Kelvin and the Fahrenheit scale? So I know that I'm going to be using, to convert to Kelvin, I'm going to be using this formula right here. So I went ahead and plugged in 100 degrees Celsius plus 273.15, and I will get 373.15. I went ahead and go back in here, and I see that that looks correct. What about the Fahrenheit? So I want to go from Celsius to Fahrenheit, so I'm going to be using this formula. Celsius multiply by 1.8 plus 32, and I will get 212. Okay? All right, not so bad there. Let's go ahead and talk about how to convert pressure conversions in here. So we remember that all of the units that I said before, all of these mean the same thing. So treat them as like a regular unit conversion where you're going to need to cancel out the units at the bottom and so on and so forth that we did before. An experiment in Sandia National Labs in New Mexico performed 758.7 millimeter mercury, convert in atmospheres millimeter mercury, torr, and kPa and psi. So let's take a look at how I did this. So I put in what I'm given on the beginning in here. You should always do this. Put what you're given in the beginning, and then I will look for a conversion, right? I want to cancel out the millimeter mercury, so I'm gonna have the millimeter mercury at the bottom, and the number that's attached to it is 760. And I'm looking for atmosphere, so that's gonna be ATM at the on top. One is gonna be the one attached to it. So that's essentially going to be 758.7 times 1 divided by 760, and I will get 0.9974. I want to make sure that I have 4 significant figures, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Millimeter mercury and torr are pretty straightforward. Why? Because they have the same number. Okay? So what I mean by that is, well, I'm given millimeter mercury and I'm looking for millimeter mercury, so I'm going to go ahead and copy that over. And the torr is also easy because it's 760 and 760, meaning whatever number that I have for millimeter mercury is going to be the same thing what I have for torr. So I just went ahead and copy it as well. For kilopascals, the bottom is still going to be 760 because I want to cancel it out, right? To cancel out the millimeter mercury. And I'm going to have what I want, which is kilopascal, kPa, the number 101.3 on top. And I'm going to get 101.1. The same logic applies with the other one, 758.7. 14.7 is going to be the one on top because I'm looking for pounds per square inch. And then 760 is also going to be at the bottom. And then I'm going to get 14.67 psi. We're going to go ahead and do some more calculations in class, but for right now, here's your introduction to conversions of units of temperature and pressure.